Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us today for another Mary Lives podcast. And my name is Jack Scharf, and I am a member of the Mary Lives ministry team. With me today, I'm so pleased. With me today is Sister Stephen Gerard, a member of the Dominican Sisters of Sparkill, New York, for some 71 years. Sister Stephen, thank you for being with us. You've had an amazing life, a life worth living, as Bishop Sheen used to say. So, can you please tell us a little bit about your life and how God has guided you through that life?
As Jack said, he gave you my name and my years, so he took away my first introduction to you, but that's okay. What I would say is that I am the daughter of and had, well, I had four sisters, let's say it that way. I am the oldest of the four. I'm half Irish, half Czech, and I am a very strong American, very strong patriotic American. I would say that my goal in life, and I remember having this, I did not so much that I could write it out, but I knew from my very earliest years, maybe the day of my communion, maybe the day that the sister I had in the second grade told my mother that someday your daughter would become a sister. When I looked at my mother to see what she was going to say, she said, "That would be wonderful." And when I heard her say that, then I knew it was possible, and then that was what my intention would be. When I was traveling for my first communion, it was a very rainy day, and we were going on a bus with my grandmother. And as I was passing down the aisle, all dressed in my regalia, some woman, an elderly woman, grabbed me by the arm and said, "Please pray for me." And all these years later, now that I am 90 years old, I still remember her in prayer. And the reason was because I was so touched that anyone would think that I had the power to pray, the power to make a difference in someone's life through prayer. And that has always stayed with me. And so growing up, it was in my home, it wasn't like we were always praying rosaries and all of that. We prayed the rosary together. And even when our boyfriends came and we weren't ready for our date, they had to sit down and join us with the rosary before we could go out. And I remember the sense that I always knew that God was important in our house, always important. The picture went up, his picture went up on the wall, the Sacred Heart picture went up, whether it went with the furniture style or not. That was the first thing that went up in the house. And watching my uncles grow and watching the style of everybody, great sense of humor they all had, and they were happy, but they were also very disciplined regarding Lent and Advent and all of the right things we were told at the time could help inspire us to stay close to God. And I was very, very impressed with the sense of holiness, and I've always been attracted to holiness from the time I was a kid. Can't explain it, but when the sister told my mother that I was going to be a sister, I felt something go in my heart. And now that I look back, I know what that was. That was the awakening of the Spirit to me, or me being maybe made aware of the Spirit in me. And my goals were simple. I just wanted to be a saint, and I wanted to, and when I became a principal, my goal for my children was the holiness, to become a saint and a scholar. And even the little babies could quote that for me. Even if they didn't understand it, they knew how to say it. And then when I entered the convent, I was assigned to the part of our ministry that took care of boys that had come from court cases or were in need of special attention at that time or whatever. And so I was assigned to the young ones, the 3, 4, 5 years, and 3-year-olds. And they were very, very good. I learned how to to lay out their clothes. I mean, I had 3 sisters, so I didn't know anything about boys. So I had to learn how to shower them. I had to learn how to cut their hair, how to match their clothes, how to take them to church, how to kiss them goodnight when they went to bed, all of that kind of stuff, because they were little kids. Then when my reputation came that I could cut hair, I was sent up to the fellas, which was another part of our building, to cut their hair. So I would sit down, and the fellas were very nice, and they came over and said, "Sister, the new style is this, that way, and this way, and that way," and I would be listening very attentively. And after it was over, they looked like nice, clean-cut kids. And so they would say, "Sister, you didn't do what I said." So I said, "Don't worry about it. I promise you one thing, your hair will grow back. You will live another day." And so things like that, and I was very happy in working in that environment with that work. And then I was moved from there into teaching. And I missed my first ministry very much. To this day, I would say I missed it. But I worked hard, and I was in teaching first grade, actually, for over 21 years, and in 3 different places. And then came a letter and a phone call asking me to think about becoming a principal. And I thought to myself, oh no, I've been out of real education for a long, long time. I wouldn't remember dangling participles. I wouldn't know more than 4-letter words, and I shouldn't have said that one. But however, we worked with 3-letter words, not 4-letter words. And I just knew I wouldn't know history and geography anymore the way I had known it at the time. And so I refused it about 3 times. And not refused it, but just said I don't think I would be able to do that. And finally, the 4th time came, I looked at it and I tried to discern whether it would be good. That was a big word in those days, discern. And I did one column was the good and the bad of the whole decision. And the bad was that I was going to be leaving the Bronx, where I was teaching for 5 years, and within, not walking distance, but a bus ride, I could go to see my mother, my father, and my grandmother, and all those whom I loved, and it was nice. And then the other side was, and I was comfortable. I liked the first grade. I got better and better and better at it, and so did the kids. And then I looked at the other side, the positives, and it was obedience came up. Yes, the word yes to whatever Jesus wanted. And that was about, I lost. So I said I accepted the job. So when I went downtown to be interviewed by Brother Keeley, he was a very fine man, very fine brother. And again, he said to me something about this, how did I feel about this? So I said, well, again, my history is all with first grade, my whole life. And I said, again, repeated the same thing. I felt inadequate in terms of the subject areas, and from all the way to this 8th grade, and I didn't, feel confident. I couldn't sit down and learn everything in one or 2 months. So he said to me, take a look, sister, at the top of this list. of requirements for a good principal. And at the top, there was a sense of humor. And that was the answer to the whole story of a successful principal or not, for me at least. And plus the goal of making my kids saints and making them scholars and making them exposing them to holiness. And in a short time, of course, you learn immediately, if not soon. I always had a concept of that. It's always a team approach to success. You know, you're never successful, no matter how many accolades you get or how many plaques you receive and all these honors, which thank God I've been honored with. I always accept them and accept them from, how do I say, from the position of a team approach, because we cannot reach everything by ourselves. It's impossible. And so anyway, we became that, and then before you know it, the faculty became I was blessed with a wonderful faculty when they finally got to know me and I finally got to know them. And we used to pray together, you know, every Wednesday. The faculty would meet in the morning, and I would meet with the kids in the afternoon, and in the same time in the auditorium, and I would give my talk, and they would do their talk. In fact, the nurse that I assigned to take care of those prayers was someone who was hired by Clark's for the district. So she wasn't really, we didn't hire her, she was hired by the district. And she said, if my boss ever walked in, she said, and saw what I was doing. So I said, well, you know what? Invite them to sit down and just relax. So she was fine with it, and she did a beautiful job. And then I came in front of these kids, and I said, how am I going to get them excited, Jack? So I used to say, I could hardly wait to get here after Mass this morning. I couldn't even eat my breakfast, was to tell you what Father so-and-so said and what he did and what all this. And of course the kids thought this was good, so therefore. So anyway, then we would work that out to have good manners and caring for people and all this. One day, one of the youngsters raised his hand and said, Sister, I wanted to tell you, it was about second grade. So he said, Sister, tell me, you told me, like, you know, when you go to you're in the A&P or something, or you know, whatever like that, and you can hold the door, you know, when you're in the doctor's office for somebody, you hold the door, and that's nice and courteous and all that. He says, you know, I held the door the other day, and that lady went right through and never said thank you. So now I had to tell myself, well, you know what? She never learned manners the way you have. So keep up the good work. And I got out of that mess. So anyway, beautiful stories. There was an award I was supposed to be receiving from the Parents Guild. And they invited four wonderful, well, I should say three that I recall, three people to speak at this luncheon. So I found out that one of them was a wonderful Catholic action. She was a woman that was just phenomenal in all that she's done just for her faith alone. And the other lady was a principal who also did phenomenal things for families that couldn't afford Catholic education. In other words, she robbed, she stole, and she would continue to do that and adjust books and so on so that we could keep the kids and they would not have to leave school for lack of money. A model, a wonderful woman. And then it was myself. So I said, gee, what am I going to say? This woman's got a wonderful thing. This is a wonderful thing. And then here I am. What angle will I take? So I figured, well, something I'm more comfortable with. I'd like them to let them know that the principal also is doing something there outside of just checking the books, plan books and all of that. But what happens inside the office of the principal that people will never know unless it is told. So I selected 2 or 3 stories that I thought were worthwhile. Now the Cardinal was here for this event, And after I was invited to come up, or I come up and the cardinal was standing behind me, and I greet him, of course. And now I'm standing. So I told this story. One of the stories was, and I thought it was good. There was this day that the 8th grade boys love to bring in any of the little kids that are crying or hurt. They carry them to the office and drop them, and then they disappear. So this little girl is there, sweet and crying, sobbing, could hardly get her breath. So I took her in and I had her sit down, and I got her some water, and then I knelt down by her, and I said, honey, what's happened? Why are you crying? So she said that she goes like this, my doggie died. Oh, I said, oh, now I understand why you're crying. I said, I feel very bad about that. I said, but tell me, I was trying to distract her. So I said, well, tell me, what was his name? His name was Harry. So now I went, I asked all about Harry. Does she have a long tail, a short tail? Does his ears point up, or do they hang down? And we were talking and talking and talking. So anyway, after she calmed down, she said to me, sister, do you think Harry's going to go to heaven? I said, oh, is he going to go to heaven? I said, did he ever do anything bad? No. I said, oh, anybody who does everything good and tries so hard to make people happy as Harry has, I said, will go to heaven. Everything good goes to heaven. And anyway, after that, she said, well, then now can we go over the loudspeaker and say a prayer for him? Sure. Now, this was testing time. So I go on the mic and I say, all right, children, turn your test papers over, stop teaching, everything, and we're now going to say a prayer for Harry. Okay, so we all say a prayer for Harry. And of course, the people are all, they'll feel good. So then she felt better and went back to class. I turned around and I said to the people, I'm not a theologian. I said, but how did I do, Cardinal? And he said, very well, you're still in the church. So anyway, there's many stories like that kept you focused on the kids, on the good things. They were bad. There were things that were hard, of course, as in all lives and so on. But I think after my parents, well, my faith first, my parents, my country, and a sense of God, that God gave me all of this, and also a sense of humor. I think it's probably one of the greatest gifts God can give to us, because that's the way it is. And so when I retired, I waited till I was 80 before I retired. And that was a goal I set, so that I could spend my last days in deeper contemplation, if you want to say it that way. And my spiritual life had, of course, evolved over the years. And I had a great sense of the presence of God, a very, very, very real sense of the presence of God. And I wanted to spend more time. I wanted to be more near Him without all the wonderful distractions that come into our lives, service and everything. But I did stay involved in my volunteering in the Sisters Infirmary, which I still do. And so when I retired, I moved out of the convent about 8 years after that, while I was still volunteering in the infirmary. And we loved the convent. It was in Valley Cottage. It was just beautiful. And then we got word that the convent was going to be sold. So the two sisters I was with and myself, through the wonderful attention of our pastor, he was a wonderful, wonderful man. He came and told us and told anything we wanted to do or take, and you can stay. He said, I made it clear you have a whole year to make a decision, and where you're going to go and so on. And then we told our superiors, of course, and then someone said, why don't you come in now? So I did. So after 48 years in that convent, then I came to the Mother House. And here I am right now. And that's all I can say. That's my life.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Sister Stephen. You have such a wonderful, wonderful memory and those wonderful stories. And I very much related to having a sense of humor. Having been in administration for many years in hospital work, it is essential,
Yes.
utterly essential. You go crazy. By the way, dogs going to heaven. Okay.
Yes, yes, that
Um,
did make me feel good.
yes, yes. And the great theologian, I'm blocking on his name now for some reason. But anyway, he believed that definitely dogs went to heaven. So thank you for your story. Thank you for joining us. And thank you all for watching this podcast. And Sister Stephen will be joining us in a subsequent podcast about the power of prayer. For more information about the Mary Lives Ministry, please visit our website at www.marylives.com. And please join us each Monday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we pray the Rosary together. Just click on the website, and where it says Pray the Rosary, click on that and join us by Zoom. Hope to see you. And again, thank you, Sister Stephen, and thank you for joining us. God bless.